Hello book lovers, this is my third Top 5 Wednesday video and I really love the topic this week because this week the topic is recommending 5 books to people who don't actually read or to people who have just starting reading. For this one I really didn't want to go with the famous series and famous books, but I wanted to pick 5 books from kind of 5 different genres. As fantasy is one of my favorite genres, then I'm going to recommend 2 books from that genre, and I'll explain more when I start telling you which books I choose for this Top 5 Wednesday topic. So the first book I wanted to recommend to the new reader, and this book, I don't own a physical copy of this book, and that is Wait For You by Jaylene or Jennifer L. Armentrout. And I really love each and every book Jennifer L. Armentrout has written, and this is like a new adult book. So it deals with college life and usual problems that happen in college, but the characters were really well developed. It is almost like you know each and every one of them. It is a lighter read, but there are also some serious issues the main characters have to deal with, and that's why I really loved this book. And I really loved how everything, the setting and the characters and everything seemed so real, and I think that this book was really great and I would definitely recommend it to a new reader, especially if that new reader likes new adult books or any kind of romance books and something like that, because the romance in this book was adorable and the characters were great and the story itself was great and I really loved it. So the humor, it made me laugh a few times. All those references to some things that are familiar to me, they would be probably familiar to the person I would recommend this book to, and everything was really great, so that would be my new adult book recommendation. The second book I'm going to recommend is more like a fantasy book, and that would be Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. And this is more like a mythological fantasy and more like maybe a retelling and fantasy based on Celtic myth. And I really love this book because when I was a child, my mother used to read me all those wonderful stories, and one of those was the story by Andersen called Wild Swans. And this is practically a retelling of that tale, although there were 11 swans in that book, or 12, I'm not sure. And here we've got 6 swans. This is practically a fantasy, but with mythological elements and also with some royal stuff going on. And we can see a king who has only one daughter and he has 6 sons, and which binds all those brothers with a powerful spell, and Sorcha, or whatever her name is pronounced, is the only one who can lift the spell from her brothers. And to do that, she has to remain silent. And because if she speaks before completing this spell, then she couldn't really save her brothers. If you haven't guessed already, her brothers are turned into swans. So that was a really interesting novel, and I think that I would recommend it to a new reader because I think that it is light enough and there is also a love story, and a lot of people have read the tale by Andersen and loved it, so this is practically a retelling of it, as I've already said, and that's it. So the other book that I'm going to recommend is also fantasy, and that is Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. And I really loved the first book. It is a trilogy. There is also another trilogy, like a companion trilogy, but I really love the first book, and I think that the first book is the best in the trilogy, and the second is also good, but I didn't really like the third one. But if I would recommend a book to a new reader, I would recommend the first book, because I think that you could easily read only the first book. There is no need for the second and third, maybe. And the other reason why I would recommend Poison Study is because it is about food tester, a girl named Yelena, who has a choice to be executed or to become a food tester to the commander of Ixia, which is kind of a country. The whole world is really well described, and it is really interesting, and it has some military concept in it and everything, and I really love that. But the main reason why I would recommend this book is because I studied toxicology at university, and it is all about poisons and everything. So if anyone would ask me which book I would recommend, which deals with poisons and things like that, then I would pick Poison Study. Makes sense, doesn't it? I wanted to recommend something like a dystopian. I would also recommend Hunger Games, Divergent and everything like that, but I would also like to recommend Agnes by Scott Westerfield, because I think that the idea of this book was really phenomenal. I think that you all know what these books are about. It is about a world where when you turn 16 you get to go to these operations and everything to make you look like a supermodel or something like that, and it is about a girl named Tally, and she discovers that this is not the best way to live. It is really interesting to see all those process of her figuring it all out and trying to find her way out of all those situations, her adventure in her life and everything. So it is also a trilogy, but you could read only the first one if you wanted to, and you could also read the second and third one. All of them are great, and I really love that. Last but certainly not the least, I'm going to recommend a sci-fi book, and that is Across the Universe by Beth Revis. I've read only the first book so far, and I bought the second and third book, and I'm going to read those soon. But I really loved the first book, and it had a great plot twist at the end. I couldn't really guess what would happen, and I really loved that. This book is about Amy, who decided to join her parents on a trip to discover this new planet, and they were all frozen, and they were meant to wake up when they reached the planet we are talking about, but that didn't happen because of the accident at the ship. When Amy wakes up, she finds out that she is at this ship full of strangers. The ship itself is like a whole new world, because they have different dialect, they have different customs. There is also a different system of ruling, because there is eldest, who is like the captain of the ship, and he's also a ruler of the ship, and there is also elder, who is meant to take his place after his death and everything. So it is really interesting, and I really loved that book. It was really good to read something from the sci-fi genre, because I don't usually read that, and I really love this book. And after having finished this book, I also wanted to read some other sci-fi books, so that was also great. So I would recommend this one to a new reader. So that will be my top 5 Wednesday video, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, give me a giant like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.